Alright, horror fans. Scream 6. It didn't take me as long to get to this one as it did part 5, but we're here and we're doing it because these remakes keep coming, and this is the second one out of this new reboot or refurbishment or whatever else you want to call it. Um, Non ending sequel after sequel. And, even though I don't believe it's announced, I could be wrong, but you just have a feeling it'll be at least a trilogy. Especially if you've already seen this movie, it's still door wide open at the end for more and more Ghostface. So, that's a good thing or a bad thing depending on where you sit. But maybe I'll discuss that a little bit more towards the end of the review. But let's go ahead and start off with the IMDb plot here. In the next installment, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. All right. Um, Lots of different things to talk about here. The first thing I will say is I know this is a new movie, obviously. Lots of people already seen it. Gonna throw out a spoiler alert. I'm going to eventually talk about the killer or killers um, at some point in this review. I'm not going to mention who that persons may be specifically, but I just want to kind of talk about something in general about Scream and about the killers and so forth. So um, it might be a touch of a spoiler in there, but if you're not, I'm not gonna name the killers here and throw that off for you because I know that that's part of the fun. So I won't say specifics of that, but I will be talking about it in general. However, here we go, and I guess I'm gonna kind of start with a little bit of how this film was marketed before you kind of get into what's happening here and what happens here. And two, I guess, big points with this when it was marketed is, it being a very brutal movie, the most brutal Scream of them all. And on top of that, obviously moving to New York City, a big change. Ghostface in New York. We've had a Jason in New York, and we've had lots of bad things happen in New York. Bad things typically happen in New York, so why not Ghostface throw him into the madness here. So those 2 points. I guess they're trying to give you something different and so forth, and you know talking about the brutality of it, yeah, it's bloody. There's some really good moments and some good kills in here, but I've always thought, Ghostface, and one of the things I guess is a little strange with Ghostface is I've always thought him to be pretty brutal. I mean, he typically does use just the knife there. Um, that's his main go-to. But he's pretty brutal when he does the stabs. He's throughout the entire series, no matter which one it is. So, you know, thinking about it and whatever. I mean, without having to go back and watch each one, I think each one is pretty brutal. I mean, it's just if you want to say how much blood was spilled and so forth, here and there, it's it is what it is. So I don't necessarily know that this one was any more than the others. It's certainly not short on it. If that's what you're looking for, you're definitely going to get it in this movie. But is it the most brutal one? Without, again, I don't have the best memory. Again, without watching them all, I would, I don't know. I don't know. And as far as that a selling point, I mean, isn't that kind of what you expect from Ghostface? You want him to kill some people. You won't, you're gonna get some stabbings. Um, just thinking about part five, the particular character that was killed, a popular character without giving it away. I thought that was pretty brutal in itself in that scene and in that moment, and amongst others, and even going back to the beginnings of the franchise, the garage scene. you know, was pretty messed up as it is. And you know, there's lots of different scenes that are brutal within the entire franchise. So, you know, I don't know. Take that for what it is. And then as far as again New York, yeah, you know, again, this is gonna give, you know, it something different, a different feel, a different setting. You know, they take you into the subway. That was a big scene. I guess you can't, you know, take on New York without going into the subway. Um, they're in apartment buildings, and there's a little bit of a different apartment setting. Um, but you know, was it necessary? You know, is it a big deal? Again, you know, making the move and saying that it's in New York City is a big thing, but you know, at the end, you know, I don't think it, you know, added anything great or subtracted anything great. You know, it just takes it to a different place. If they do a third part to this new batch here, you know, it will be interesting. You know, do we make a return for a grand finale back home, or do we continue this in New York kind of thing? Hey, New York just didn't work out. It appears Ghostface does travel. You know, so do we go somewhere else or do we just go home? You know, I don't know. You know, Jason eventually went back home, so I mean, you know, I don't know. Anyway, getting over all that, give you a little bit about this movie. Sarah and Tara. I don't know why they couldn't just come up with different names, but anyway, the two sisters have now, you know, tried to do what lots of people try to do in horror movies and go somewhere else. And hopefully, you know, their problems don't follow them, but their problems do follow them. Um, Sarah's obviously having a hard time, and obviously, you know, you know, there's a big try not to give too much away, you know, as far as part five, because I know that probably some people that might not have seen part five, but you know, we find out, you know, who, you know, Sarah is and her background, and that kind of carries with her into this movie and plagues her a little bit in this movie, and lots of people are harassing her about that in this movie, and you know, that's, you know, what she has to deal with. Where her sister Tara, it's just like, I'm over this. I'm gonna try to move on. You know, we left that over there and it's not here. And I'm gonna just go on with my college life. You know, she's trying to be in college there, and like I said, and like we know, that's not gonna be so easy. And Ghostface is eventually going to make an appearance and eventually begin stalking and hunting them and killing their friends and the people around them. And you know, we get the whole you know, who is it kind of thing going on here. And as you know, as short it is as it is, what I would just said is why, you know, I kind of debate whether we need another Scream, because it is what it is at this point. They pretty much did it in part five. They've done it in other parts. You know, it's a very similar formula over and over and over again. So yeah, we like the slasher, we like the serial killer part of it, we like the blood and guts part of it, and we even like the mystery. You know, I posed a question on Twitter. You know, how many times have you guessed correctly the killers before the big reveal? Before, you know, it was, you know, either they came out or it was just plain old obvious who it was, or just before, you know, they basically unmasked themselves. And not too many people have said that they got it right every time. I sure as hell don't. You guys know that I'm just bad at this stuff and bad at guessing. Um, but you know, I guess, you know, that is a little bit of the fun of Scream. But again, you know, it is, you know, same formula. And then, you know, you can argue, you know, Jason has the same formula. You know, throw a bunch of people in the campground, kill them all. You know, why are you not tired of that? Well, you know, supposedly, you know, the story just goes on, and you know, they did eventually remake it and blah blah. But I don't know. I like it. Just it's not that I don't want to watch it. It's more of, do we have to? Like, is it necessary? Like, yeah, we want it, but you know, could we rather have something new and different and something that we haven't seen before, and maybe try to get a little more creative with something new. It's the constant back and forth between, should we be doing these reboots and whatever, and yeah, well, let's just do them because whatever. And at the end of the day, once Scream made, the last one made so much money, it was fairly obvious that they were going to make a new one, and fairly obvious that that one did well. And again, I don't know officially, but I would assume they'd do another one just because of the money. Just like they just did Evil Dead and Rise, and it made a lot of money. So when's the next one coming? Officially announced or not? It's just when they started the new Halloween thing. It made a lot of money, and they kind of knew that they were going to do several parts to begin with, but they knew they were going to make a lot of money. It's too easy. So is it a matter of are they making it because you really love the story, you want to continue the story, or is it just easy money? You have that debate. So there's a lot of that going back and forth, and I throw that out there lots with these remakes and reboots, because I'm very split on it, and I just don't really want them to do it, but I do. But it's sometimes I debate whether they do it for the right reasons or not, and then it's like then at the end of the day, I kind of always have a feeling is that I would rather have something new and a new franchise and a new killer and something to move forward with than something that's over and over again. So that and I say the brief summary like that is just because it is Scream. Like I said, they try to tell you that it's a new setting, it's in New York, but it's in New York, so what? I mean, you have a subway scene, and the other scenes are basically an apartment. They have an interesting, I'm not going to give it away, ending, where the setting is, where the end of the movie ends is an interesting setting in itself. Who's to say they couldn't have done that if they were back home? How much does it really add? It's just, it kind of gives you something to talk about story-wise and so forth, but at the end of the day, you get everything that Scream is here. You get the opening. I should have mentioned the opening. The opening was pretty interesting, how they did that. They kind of play it off as like you're living, they started with the victim, obviously, like they usually do. And then they kind of give you a dive into Ghostface and what it would be if you tried to be Ghostface, and very briefly. Now, to me, it would have been more interesting if they continued that through the entire film. Yeah, it would have sucked that you at least knew who Ghostface was, or at least half of Ghostface, or whatever. But it would have been interesting to see and know the killer is from the beginning. See that person interact with the others knowing that they're the killer, not necessarily suspecting somebody is the killer. When they set out the group and they show you everybody's faces and you're like, to actually know for a fact early on this is the killer and how they're interacting, would have been a change, and would have been maybe something interesting. The killer is the killers are usually two people, so why not give us a story where we see one half and maybe some of the interactions the other half. A lot of times they kind of sprinkle in there, once they do the reveal, this one killed these people and this one killed these people, and without going into great research of it, sometimes I was thinking, once I see the killers, I go, there's no way that this person killed that person in that way. Maybe I would believe the other Ghostface did it, but not that person. And even in this one, when you portray a Ghostface is going to be so much brutal and more brutal in this movie, and then they reveal who Ghostface is, he's like, okay, you're going to tell me in the entire franchise these people are the most brutal than anybody else? That's when I kind of take a step back and go, no, I don't think so. Like, okay, no, they're not gonna be the most brutal ones of them all. It just, to me, that doesn't match. So that's just another thing that, when you look at who these people eventually are, and then you look at all the kills that happen, sometimes I'm like, good kills, but don't match who this killer is, unless they have just some more athletic or more skill or just more anger and hate than they're portraying, and ability, than it is. And, I don't know. But, yeah, so again, interesting beginning, but obviously, they kill that idea off right then and there, and then it goes into the usual. Then Ghostface makes himself aware to Sarah and Tara, and then the group of friends, and then we get the good old speech about horror movies, and we know everything about horror movies, and preaching to horror fans everything you already know, and maybe some things you didn't think about, but or forgot, like me, who forgets everything. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, they do this. And then this whole, maybe even some, they kind of touch on some new things that people like to do, like Scream does here, and obviously Star Wars did, is bring back old characters and kill them off. You know, those kind of things. And then, the movie within itself plays on, is it going to do that? Is it not going to do that? Is it going to follow the script? Is it not going to follow the script? It's going to be fairly obvious who the killer is, who is not. I think in part 5, I got 50% of it right. I think in this one, I probably batting the same percentage. It is, and then again, so you get the grand old speech, who it is, and then it's just guessing who it is, and then watching Ghostface eliminate people, and then it's the grand final scene where it's got to be that person, and then it's not that person after all, and then but maybe no, yes, no, yes, no, and then it is. And here's the part that I kind of be a spoiler alert for you. Again, I'm not going to mention who the killers are here. But one of the things I certainly am getting tired of is this, with Scream, is this continuance of when they reveal the killers, and, they're the killers because I'm related to the past killer, because I'm his brother's uncle's cousin's roommate's best friend's sister's maid of honor, and so forth. Like, it is just a continuous sequel that, hey, you killed whatever because they were a nut, and they tried to kill you. You killed them, so I'm going to be a nut too, and I'm going to go kill you. Or you killed my brother's friend's sister's uncle's cousin, so I'm going to be mad, and I'm going to kill you too. And I'm going to go through all this trouble to put on the Ghostface mask and do this whole charade, just like they tried to do to you, but I'm pissed at you, so I'm going to kill you. Like, I know that, they're trying to give it, some reason and so forth, and it kind of makes more sense that, the killer has to be, related to someone. But there's just no way for the audience, unless they say some obvious, really obvious history of the person, that when the eventually killers are revealed, that they're related to anybody before. Like, you just don't know. Like, there's just no way for you to know. So when they're like, well, that was my son's uncle's friend's best friend, cousin's dog's babysitter, you're like, well, how was I supposed to know that? Like, I guess, the fun is guessing, who the killer is. But then they're like, well, yeah, because I'm pissed off because you killed X, Y, and Z. But how is the audience supposed to know that these killers are related to anybody before? Like, at this point, you just assume they are, because it's just become a thing in Scream. They're related to somebody in the past. They're just related, so they're pissed off, so they're gonna kill. So every time you see, a Scream, and then you see new characters, well, you're just like, okay, well, who these people are. And then, they kind of wrinkled it a little bit this time, because Sarah is obviously related to somebody, but she's not a killer, for what we know. But she's the only one so far. But when it comes time to saving your life, she's pretty damn good at it. So, it's just, where are they going to go down that road? Will be interesting, if they do a trilogy to it, or expand it out for how many more, whatever they want to do. But I'm just a little, tired of it. Like, yeah, I know it makes sense in the story. Hey, they have to be related to somebody. They have to have a good reason. But it's just tiresome. It's like, okay, well, I knew him. He, was a friend of mine, and I'm pissed, and now I'm going to kill you because that. But so I'm going to go through this whole charade, and instead of just killing you because I'm really pissed, as opposed to just showing up at your house and blowing you away, I'm going to put on a mask and team up with somebody else who may or may also not be related, and get them to play the charade and kill all your friends before I eventually kill you. And because no, I mean, come on. If someone killed your brother's best friend's roommates, sisters, whatever, and you wanted to get them, you would just go get them. Like, why are you gonna play this game? Like, you're just gonna go get them, and that's it. Like, whatever. So yeah, that's my little bit of frustration there with the whole uh, killers that when they're revealed thing. So that whole thing is getting old. So again, going back to the top of it, yeah, there are little things that are old at this point, but yeah, that is what makes Scream scream. So you either like it or you don't. So uh, at the end of the day, I guess to wrap all this up without further complaining about everything here, again, I'm just very split on whether we should be doing these movies or not. Um, like I said with my review of Scream 5, I did end up actually liking the movie more than I thought I was going to do. Even though, again, I debate this, is it necessary or not? Um, Again, I did like this movie. Again, it has, the good kills. I think the girl who did the whole speech about, with the horror movies and discussing, who's the killer and why, she was fun and did a good job of it. There's, a small bit of humor here or there. Um, but, again, it's just a lot of the same at the end of the day, too. So it's back and forth. I just don't know at this point whether they're going to do anything to really blow it out of the park here. And you can do the arguments of where they went with Halloween, and I think when they brought back Michael, everybody was really excited. But I think as at least in my mind, as they went with that series, it kind of went down the drain. Um, I don't necessarily see this go down the drain, but trilogy they'd probably be able to squeeze in. I think if they do anything more and they kind of follow the same path, um, it will just begin to get tiring again. Because I mean, go back and ask horror fans, between parts 2, 3, and 4, at what point did they get tired of it? They were probably all in for part 2, but were they all in for part 3 or were they all in for part 4? I don't know. So, are you really going to be all in for more parts? Um, kind of thinking about it, I think, they can maybe do one more in a similar fashion to this and then kind of continue. If they wanted to continue on with something else in the minds of Sarah and her character going forward in what she's battling. And maybe they can come up with something interesting out of that. But besides that, how much more of this on and on do we want to go? I don't know. I believe I gave part 5. I didn't go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I gave part 5 uh, 3 pools of blood and 3.5. I'm going to give this one, 3 pools of blood. Just, and it very easily could get 3.5. I liked kind of what they did at the opening. I wish they would have followed that kind of a little bit differently and gave us something different. Having it in New York didn't do anything particularly spectacular for me. And saying it was more brutal, didn't do anything for me either. It's got some good kills in here again. I didn't like that so many people, I guess, survived. I guess, I guess in the end of the day, again, these killers didn't do as good of a job as they say. So when you say it's the most brutal one of them all, maybe it was brutal, but you didn't kill as many people as you thought you killed. So again, uh, I don't know. So yeah, again, if you like Scream, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. If you like the same formula, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. Um, but is it better than anything else? Better than any other Scream in particular ways? No. Again, you debate how necessary it is at this point. I don't know. That is up to you guys. So I'm just gonna cop out here and give it 3 pools of blood. But definitely, if you're a fan of Scream, definitely watch it. I don't see how you could be terribly disappointed with it if you're just used to the same old formula, and that's good enough for you. So yeah. So with that, horrorsgoryreviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews. But if you're just interested in the video reviews, subscribe, like, do all those things that everybody wants to do. If not, no problem. But if you're interested in some written reviews, they are there on the blog. A lot of video reviews now, but if you go back, there are plenty of written ones there as well. Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. You can reach out to me there, talk to me about Scream, other stuff. If you want me to review something, reach out. Or just talk horror. Happy to talk horror anytime. And in the comment section below, what your thoughts on Scream? Anything I said? Is the series still necessary at this point? Is it still new to you, or are you kind of like, oh well, it's just the same formula again and again? And do you want a third part to this new batch here? Yeah. So with that, I guess I'll catch you on the next review, horror fans.